Afternoon. You are rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. I'm not sure where Dave is. Maybe he's on assignment. I don't know. It's a Tuesday. It's the end of the month, and we have to remember that Dave wears several hats. He is a Kent County Commissioner as well as the Executive Director of Disability Advocates of Kent County. Oh, excuse me. I'm just a little from a little getting a little bit better. Today's my anniversary. Yes.
Happy anniversary.
Yes. And I'm so excited because my husband cooked.
Oh, what?
So it's like I'm really ready to get off and and go eat. But yeah,
Congratulations, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
What did he cook?
He made steaks on the grill. We have a grill that's made into our stove, which I really like because he wanted to go outside and grill, but he's like, I think it's a little bit too chilly for that. I said, okay, no problem. Whatever you decide to do is fine. So he did it right here on the stove. Oh, and it smells so good. So he made steaks and a wonderful salad and mashed potatoes. So I'm excited.
So what kind of a steak girl are you?
Well, my most favorite is a Melbourne from Outback.
Okay. Good.
Oh my God. It takes my daughter to talk about it because she's just like, oh my goodness. When I graduated there he is.
Hey, Dr. Kimberly, it says we're live.
Hey, we're live. Opa. There we go. Yeah, so
it's one of those days.
I understand. When I graduated in 2017 with my first doctoral degree, I went all the way out. Everybody came. I ordered a limo and took everybody to dinner at Outback. And when the waiter came, they said, well, what is everybody going to have? I said, oh, everybody's getting a Melbourne. They were like, a what? And I said, a Melbourne. So then my daughter says, you get a Melbourne, you get a Melbourne, you get a Melbourne. Oprah's here. Everybody gets a Melbourne.
Oh, man. That's going to be my new thing when I see you now. Yo, get a Melbourne.
You get a Melbourne. And I'm telling you, everyone who's gone and gotten one, they're just like, oh, my Jesus, where has this steak been all my life? I said, you see what I'm saying? It's just.
I'm going to give me one.
I'm telling you. Well, you go to Outback and make sure that you get the garlic, loaded mashed potatoes, and get the grilled asparagus with some side garlic butter on. They can come and just drizzle on top. I'm just telling you.
Well, garlic likes to stay with me. Like
David's like
everybody that left the restaurant. It's the next day and garlic is still there.
Okay, so we'll just take.
But I will do it.
So, Dave, we were just talking. Today's my anniversary, and so I said I can't wait to get off the show because Stan cooked. She's asked me what did he fix, and I said, well, we have a grill that is on our stove because he said it was a little bit too cold to be outside and pull all the grill out and everything. So he grilled steaks on top of the stove, made a nice fresh salad, and of course I got purple roses.
Purple rose. Isn't that Prince's song? Sorry. He's turning over in his grave as I sing.
But so yes, David's here. We are so excited. We had a little bit of conversation that we started behind the scenes, but we were talking about women who run, in politics, and seeing how we both are
in politics.
Yes,
Dave, I don't do the other kind of running.
Neither do I.
I run my mouth. That's about it.
I run over people's toes with a wheelchair.
Right. That's fun.
But I think that we have a wonderful dynamic today because Dave is the prime example of what we think that politics looks like. And I think that, now that we have a female vice president who's a woman of color, that do you think that it's making other women stop and say, maybe I might want to be in politics?
I actually do think that it's making women think that it's like that could be me. And not only that, I think that we have this misconception that you have to be already there, already have made it before you can run. And that's just absolutely not true. And I challenge people all the time. And I say, well, in order to become the president, you just need to be 35 years old, a United States citizen, and born in the US. So why are we acting like we can't? And now you see senators coming in who were bartenders. They're not breaking any rules. They're not doing anything different. What they are doing, I mean, they are doing something different. They're stepping up to the plate as women. They're stepping up to the plate just as people who have a passion inside of them and a need and a want to make change. So, oh my goodness, I think that Kamala opened a lot of eyes, especially to women of color. We have carried for so long and set in the back for so long, and to see her rise up, I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. I mean, it inspires me. It's a beautiful thing.
And it's, both for her, I mean, she did a lot of work in California and as attorney general. We don't really get into folks' resumes enough, in the sense of how they got there.
Mhm.
And but again, you're starting in a smaller position, and she fast tracked it to the VP, relatively so. But then it's, are you running for a school board, city commission, applying to be appointed? Because you don't run for those jobs, but at the same time, those jobs are hugely a benefit and of service to communities. So how do you get engaged? And then, that it's not that folks, I mean, some people start doing those things because they want to get somewhere, as opposed to the people who get somewhere by doing those things well.
Say that again. I think that was so profound. Say it one more time.
Well, some people do those smaller jobs because they want to get somewhere else. Other people get somewhere else by doing the small jobs really well. That you're focused on, like you're a really good planning commissioner. And then people are like, hey, you should think to run for city commission. Or, you're engaged in community activities. And let's just say somebody might say, you should think about running for state house. Because I'm just saying, not pointing anything up, but that's because people see that you're of service. You know how to work with other people, as opposed to the folks that are trying to get ahead. And those folks will, I mean, they always will, because they will out hustle people because they want to get there. But at the same time, it really is service.
I think I agree with Dave that it's definitely about service. And where are you serving? Some people serve in the community, and it can be smaller things. Everybody thinks that it has to be something big. There are people that volunteer inside of their communities. They volunteer in the schools. They volunteer in the churches. It's so many things that you do to lead up to that moment. I just led a workshop for women who talking to people about, I'm like, it's easy to run, but it's a lot of hard work that goes into it. And believe it or not, you've been preparing for this your whole life, right? There's a lot of people in this world that can sing, but everybody is not going to be Beyonce. Everybody doesn't have the heart to be Beyonce. Everybody doesn't have the heart to speak up. I think so many people get deterred from running because they say, well, I have to have this experience. I have to have all that experience. Not necessarily. Because if you have a brain, you can research, you can read about things, you can go out, you can meet people, you can interview people, you can ask questions, you can go and work in places, you can interview in places. There's so many things that you can do in order to get the experience that you need. And you also got to have the heart to actually want to do it. Because there's some people who have all the experience in the world and they are just not people. There are
Yeah,
some people that
Right.
they
some
don't have the
people are
heart of
career politicians and we're kind of like, why are they still there? We need somebody new who really cares. You want people in who really care. And Kim, not that I'm saying no names, but I think you are definitely one of those people.
Dave, put that cup down. You make me feel like
What? What?
yeah, put that cup down.
I mean, I think you check all of the boxes. You have to care about something greater than yourself. It cannot just be a position that you're looking for to advance, right? And I think that's what we're seeing in politics now. A lot of people looking to advance themselves and they're not willing to die for the cause. Like, I'm one of those people, I'm willing to die for the cause. How much does it mean to you? And when you ask yourself that question, when you're ready to put it all out there, then man, you're the type of person that I want to lead for me because you're the type of person that I know that's going to work hard for me and do what it takes to make sure that change occurs. That is so important. And I think you check those boxes. I know this is not about you, Kim, but I'm going to tell you, I thought about you. I've been thinking about you a lot.
Well, and I would say that piece too, because it is that balance between I've got a great resume, so I think I would do good in that role, as opposed to I do have this experience that shows I can get things done. And here's what I want to work on in this next role.
Yep.
What is that right balance that it's not like, well, I want this next role because I've I've done all these other things, and so I deserve it. And it's like, no, nobody deserves that next role. So
No, no.
anyway,
And then another thing is figuring out what that passion is that drives you. What is making you want to do it? What is it that you want to see? There can be many things. Like, for instance, in the workshop when I was helping everyone to put their platform together, the first thing that I asked them was, "Tell me three people that you care about. Three people." Now, after you tell me three people that you care about, tell me three things that you are super duper passionate about, because I don't want you to ever, if you decide to run, forget about those people that you care about, going after your passion. But also, when you go after your passion and things don't turn out the way that you do, I don't want you to quit. So you can always back at the people and the reasons that you are running before you go, right? So when you keep those in mind, that just propels you forward, because politics, woo, it's a whole nother animal. It's a whole nother animal. It can make some of the nicest people the nastiest. And you have to be prepared for that. So when you remember what your passion is, when you remember what you are there for, it just makes things come out a lot clearer, and it just makes you keep going forward. For me, I can tell you my passion. 25 years ago, my brother got life in prison without the possibility of parole. I felt so helpless inside of the courtroom. The judge, there was no evidence that pointed towards him. Everybody on the stand committed perjury. And at the end of everything, at the sentencing, and this happened here in Michigan, I was living in Illinois at the time. At the end of the sentencing, the judge said, "This should have been a mistrial." The judge said it, yet he let it move forward. I was so, I can't even describe how I felt, but powerless is one of the words. And I said, I never ever want to be in a position for something like that to happen again. But I understood then that something needed to change. And in order to be in a position of change, in order to change things, sometimes you have to be in a position of change. So 25 years ago, I ran for office. I had started a children's newspaper when I was 20 years old. I had a scholarship by the time I was 22 to go to do pre-law at John Marshall Law School, which I did, and it was absolutely awesome. I had all of this experience behind me, but I had a lot of passion and I had a connection with people. So I decided to run because I understood that you have to be in a position to change legislation. So something like this not only happens to anybody in my family, but anybody else. And I began doing my research from there, and that drove me. And years later, we're here in Michigan, the very place that I never wanted to come to because of what happened. God has me here now, and everything is beginning to line up, all of that experience, right? And then we have George Floyd, we have COVID, we have Breonna Taylor, we have Ahmaud Arbery. This isn't new in our community. Something inside of me started welling up again. And I said, I tried to put that behind me, God. And he was like, no, it's time. And so here I am.
Love it. It is 4:17, and we want to say thank you so much for rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. And we have Miss Meoschia Thompson today. And, this is Let's Talk About It Tuesday. She is a candidate for Kentwood Commissioner, Ward number 1. As you know, we don't endorse anybody, but we give everybody the opportunity to talk about their platform, share with the people so that they know. And we can say we like something or dislike it, but we don't necessarily endorse publicly here.
Not here.
We can't publicly, endorse here. But what I do want to say to you is that I'm excited for you and about you, Dave. We always talk about the symbiotic relationship that he and I have, and the things that we have been able to accomplish together. And what I love is there's a difference between giving a hand out and a hand up. Who's got something is open? Can you hear that? Dave, what are you doing over there?
I'm not. They just had a chainsaw or something going on outside, but
I think I heard it sliding.
Yeah, you can hear it. Yeah, you can hear it. But just the opportunities that you have given me to have a glimpse into politics, by going to Lansing, to the Capitol, to be able to go to Legislative Day, to be able to go and testify, along with your lobbyists on things on behalf of persons with disabilities and the, Michigan Disability Network. And so just to see the workings, it was like, oh, it was definitely an eye opener. And one thing that I did notice, there were not that many females, and there certainly weren't that many African Americans or other people of color in Lansing. I remember when we needed to have at least 51% on board for House Bills 4516 and 4517. We took the day. They were going to go on the floor by 5 o'clock that afternoon. We got there maybe about, 11 or 12. And to go around to every state rep, knocking on doors and saying, hey, look, just going from floor to floor, we divided up. And knowing that at 5 o'clock, when they hit that floor, we had more than what we needed to get those House bills to be submitted on the floor. They passed. They're now solidified. I'm like, yes. As I look around and I see how language has changed as it relates to persons with disabilities, how I see that signage has changed, I was just like, wow, I was a part of that. And I love it. We took a great picture, and the picture that we took inside the House, on the floor, it was wonderful. And they did a big press release with that picture. And I was the only person of color on there.
Yeah.
That was the most disparaging thing. What a great win. It was awesome, wonderful. I mean, we can say all the wonderful words, but guess what? At the end of the day, there was nobody else that looked like me. But people like me are the ones who need to benefit from it the most.
Yeah. Uh, Kim,
Yeah.
Dr. Kim, it was the same way when I went to the University of Michigan. They were talking to the Innocence Clinic was there. I was there, of course, trying to get information for my brother, and I'm looking at all of the attorneys and everybody around, and the people of color were exonerees, me, maybe one or two law students, and that was it. That was it. And we are the ones that need to benefit from those services the most. And we have to make more of a presence. It's so important. And we do that by running. Because when somebody sees someone like me running, I am not from Michigan, but I have roots here in Michigan, very serious and important roots here in Michigan. I am a Black woman. I am Black. It just kind of goes down, 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 down. Not down in a bad way, but there's a list there, right?
Mhm.
So when that little girl of color sees me, she's like, wow, I can do that too. When that young woman or older woman sees me who came up through uh, Michigan, they say, wow, I can do it. And that's what you want to do. You want to inspire change, you want to spark hope. That's important. And that's one of the main things that I would like to do. I hope someone sees me and says, hey, if she can do it, I can do it too. I hope a little girl says, that woman who looks like me came up to me and she spoke to me. We can identify with each other. She sees me. I hope that happens. That's so important. And that's why I try to tell people, don't listen to people on the outside telling you you have to have this list of things. Says who? Just do it. Nike Shite Day came up with the best phrase for a company ever when they told Nike, just do it.
You know what, Dave? I really want you to weigh in on this because even though you say that, Meoschia, the one thing that really, and I'm trying to remember when it was, Dave. I don't know if we went to, I can't remember if we went to the governor stated the address at the Capitol, or maybe it was, I can't remember what the event was, but what stood out to me the most on that particular day was there was a little white girl that came up to me and said, when I grow up, I want to do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what meant something to me. And I know there was a time when we we did legislative day, and I had gotten the title of Miss Wheelchair Michigan USA, and so I had the crown on, and there was a group of students that came from a school, I think in Holt, all white students, and the fact that they all came around me, wanted to know who I was, what was I doing. They were just on a tour of the Capitol, which just happened to fall on legislative day, and we took pictures together. And every time I look at that picture, just how the excitement of all of these white students, and here's this one little Black lady sitting in a wheelchair, that they're all just like, yeah, we know her. That's our friend. I mean, just our conversation and the things that we talked about, and how they said to me, we will never look at people who have disabilities or who are in wheelchairs the same since we've met you. Those are the things that really mean a lot to me, is when we cross those racial lines.
Well, that's more than racial too, right? That's about abilities, that's race, gender, that's everything.
Yeah, and that people see beyond that first layer, and as you were saying, that kind of those deeper and deeper levels, that that little girl's like, yeah, I see a powerful woman and I want to be that, you know, and those students saying, hey, there's somebody who's accomplished something. I want to figure out what that is, you know, and so, and they don't like, oh, you know, I need to like only find white male mentors or white male colleagues. And it's like, no, you know, I mean, again, if people believe the statistics, which I do, you know, the more diverse your organization is, the more creative it's going to be and the more impactful it's going to be, because you're not just all 50-year-old white guys, you know, not to say that 50-year-old white guys all have the same opinion, because there might be some 50-year-old white guys that don't share my opinions on the world. But at the same time, it's similar life experience, similar life perspectives. And it's like, man, why do you choose to cheapen your own life by not hanging out with people of different abilities, different perspectives, different genders? Just again, you know, yeah. So that piece is, you know, again, every time Dr. Kimberly embarrasses me by anything I've given her, and I get way more, you know, and it was long ago when I was a senior in high school, and I actually wrote a paper called Ministers and Ministries, like EE, so that when you minister, you are ministered to.
Yes.
You know, when you're doing it right, you know, you're not just giving. Because if you're just giving, then you are in like this power dynamic. You are in charge. I'm giving you something, as opposed to if I'm giving and getting, there's some good reciprocity of that power. And yeah, I'm giving and getting tons.
Yeah.
And then you feel the frustration, because the reason why I was late signing on today, I met with a young man who works in the direct care world. Man, and he is just like burned out, taken advantage of, and he knows the system's broken, you know, and he was just so honored that I gave him an hour. Now, I mean, he gave me so much more in the sense of, all right, at least in the future, I see him being somebody who wants to work on some of the systems change work, somebody who will go to the Capitol with Dr. Kimberly to say, the system's broken, and I'm going to tell you why, because this is what happens in the group home where I work every day, and this is what's wrong with the system. You all in Lansing think, well, let's just fix. It's like, no. You guys just don't get it. You guys and gals. So, anyways,
I think that it's interesting that so last week, I don't know what I was thinking. I got the COVID booster, a flu shot, a flu vaccine, and a pneumonia vaccine. And I was just like, is this legal? And I'm talking to my doctor. I was like, you know, I think the VA just does something to us, you know, veterans. I don't know what it is, but
we call that experimentation.
I think so. Let's just see once. Now, is she going to turn into a zombie? So then, of course, you know, my daughter, she's like, so is there going to be a progressive turn, or do you think this is going to be an immediate thing? How long has it been? I said, well, I had to wait 15 minutes. She says, well, then maybe it's going to be progressive because you're in the car now. Yeah. Let's think about this one. But how we got into this conversation, I'm trying to remember. Oh, I know. I asked her about running for, you know, a political campaign. And I said, one of the things that I've noticed by sitting on a council and you look at, you get a 1,200 page document that is supposed to change the quality of person's lives. And I said, but then when you're on the opposite end as disability advocates of Kent County or 100 Shades of Disability, and you have consumers that say, I have this problem, and this problem. And you're like, wait a minute, didn't we just write a policy about that? You know, I think about, we had an intern who was with us for a whole year before she was able to even get the services that I'm like, I know we just signed off on this at this level, at the legislative level, we know this has got signed off, but it's a whole year now from the time that this was signed. We know that those services are available. She's just now getting services. What is the disconnect? Is that where, someone like Meoschia comes along and says, hey, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to run for office. Or, Pastor Dave, hey, I'll run for office. Is that what it is that we need to make that connection from when there is policies or legislation? And then how are we getting it to the people to change their lives? To say, yeah, we said we were going to do this for you.
I think a lot of that, helping people to even understand how that works. A lot of changes that are made, some happen right away. A lot of them take time. They take time. There's different procedures, different things, checks and balances that they got to go through in order for them to even be implemented, right? You're the person on the other end. You don't understand that. All you know is you gave me a promise and I want to see it now, right? Like we even know with the presidencies, things can happen inside of the presidency. Sometimes you won't see that change until 1, 2, maybe even 4 years later, maybe even when the next president takes his turn. People don't understand a lot of that. That's why I think it's so important that when you do decide to run for office, that you build relationships with people and you constantly communicate with them. Sometimes over communicating is the best way because you hope that one of those ways get through. Help people to understand. That's why I did the workshop the other day that I was telling you all about earlier, and helping people to understand how the process goes. Because when you say, hey, I want to run for office, everybody's like, yay, great. And then you say, hey, I need some money to run. And people are like, oh, wait a minute. And then they're like, okay, I'll get it to you. And next thing you know, they get busy. You're not that priority right there. Now, what they want is a priority. But, things happen. Family life happens. Things get in the way. They just forget. Meanwhile, you're waiting because you want to run for office, but there's so many parts to that. So the reason that I'm doing this workshop, showing people about running, what it takes to run, is because I'm trying to help them to see that there's two sides to that story, right? There's this zeal for running, and then there's those people on the other side that need to support. Even when we talk about voters want things, but voters even have to come out and vote. We did this little cute election thing, and when we finished, I did not vote, right? And then somebody else, they weren't paying attention. They filled out their ballot wrong. When we finished, the two candidates that we had, it was 3 candidates. 2 ended up, they were in a tie. And because I didn't vote, it couldn't break the tie. And because the other person filled out their ballot wrong, the tie couldn't be broken. And I was just showing people how it's so important that and one more thing, I had them to also, and you don't do this in actual elections, but I actually had them to state, why did you vote for that person? And the reason that I had them to do that is because I'm like, you got to think long and hard about why you're voting for a person. You don't want it just to be because they're male or female, or because they're Republican or Democrat, or because it's your neighbor. You want it to be because this person really is trying to do things that line up with my values. Those types of things are important. And I also want the voter to understand that you also have to be educated. Because maybe they do agree with you there, but then this other stuff that they're talking is like, whoa, totally against what I believe, right? So all these things go into it. And if you want your favorite candidate to win, you got to invest in them because they need to get the word out. If they can't get the word out, then the people don't know. So it's so many components that go into this. And, even for you, the candidate running, you got to meet a lot of people. You got to do a lot of research about your position, about where you are, about the community. I mean, it's just so much stuff. It's amazing. It's a journey, but it's worth it. It's so worth it.
I'm just over here looking at your website. Yeah. Because you definitely have done your research and a lot of items that are on your to-do pile.
Thanks, Columbia College, Chicago. Woo woo. Those journalism degrees paid off.
All right. And so what are the, if, and again, not endorsing, just asking questions.
Okay.
if you get elected and you're given, they tell you, hey, we forgot to tell you this, you get 2 wishes related to everything on your pile. What are like those 2 things that you're like, these are the most important things that need to happen?
Oh, it's so many. Okay.
That's the problem
The
of
first one is
life. Just
Oh,
exactly, Dr.
but
Kimberly.
I got it. Okay, so my first one is diversifying our police department. But there's so many things that fall underneath that, diversifying our police department, because I have to tell why. Because I
Yeah.
think it's important that we build relationships with our community, and the best way to do that is through relationship, right? So the best way to do that is to have your officers reflect the community that it serves. So that all kind of rolls in there. So we're
Oh, yeah.
building relationships, we're diversifying the police department, we're making sure that the community and the cops connect, because that is a big issue. That's why everybody's stomach was hurting over uh, these past couple of years, year and a half, all while COVID was going on, and still now because of what happened with George Floyd. That's nothing new. That's nothing new. When we look at a community like Kentwood, that's 80%. I'm sorry, that speaks over 80 different languages, and then you look at a police department that's majority white and only a couple, 1 or 2 of color. That's a disconnect. That's a problem. They need to connect so that people can see themselves. We need to reflect our community. Our leadership needs to reflect our community so everybody knows they have a voice. So that would be my first one. That's a lot of stuff inside of that first one. My second one is so for my second one, because I think that this is something that's so important for children, but also adults. So it's kind of lumped in there together. Persons with disabilities. This is important because not only does it impact the older people, it impacts the younger people too. We need a playground inside of our community that has accessible equipment. All of our playgrounds are accessible. That means anybody can get in them, right? But can't anybody play? That is a problem. When we live in somewhere that is diverse, and we hang our hats on that, the world knows Kentwood by our diversity. A couple of years ago, we won, I think we were the number 1 or 2 city to live in inside of the United States because of our diversity. Is one of the reasons I moved to Kentwood. But diversity, people forget, includes other things besides age, race, and gender. It also includes ideas and abilities, right? So why shouldn't my child who's in a wheelchair be able to play with the other children in the park? That is worth investing in. That's something that our city needs to look at, right? Why shouldn't children with autism have a safe space to play where their parents don't have to worry about them, being their sensory skills being impacted? These are things that we got to think about when we're in a diverse community. Any and every community could, but especially a community that prides itself on diversity. And then when we start talking about abilities again, me and Kim were having a conversation, and I was just like, wow. She was like, we need more than a bare minimum. We need more than a ramp when people are building. And I was like, whoa, you know what? She is right. So our city needs to say to developers who come in, listen, we either have a project, we either have a disability advocate with project management skills that works for the city, or that you have to contract out, you have to developer who wants to build inside of our city to make sure that apartments, to make sure that commercial real estate that's coming in is accessible and not just the bare minimum. I went over to an apartment complex off Eastern, and I'm talking to a lady about my platform. And just because you look at a person and they seem like they don't have a disability doesn't mean they don't have one. You're just looking, you don't know. It could be mental, it could be anything. And when I was talking, she said, oh my goodness, thank you. Because we keep getting ignored. She said, I've lived over here all these years. There are no ramps. She said, do you know how hard it is for me to climb that curb? And I'm looking around her apartment complex, things that I take for granted. I didn't even notice. And I'm like, that is a problem. Our city needs to go back through and get with these developers, get somebody and say, hey, we need to take care of this to make sure that there are ramps. More than a bare minimum, she saw something that I couldn't see with my eye. That's why we need somebody assigned who will see, and we need to make these companies pay for it. You coming in, you making money in our city, take care of our people. So that's something else that's just important to me. So those would be my top two, and then we'll go on to the other stuff. Because we got to make sure that we take care of our non-English speaking citizens too. We got to take care of everybody in the community.
I think that was more than 2 days.
Well, but see, Meoschia, she follows my lead where, I pick one thing that has many strings and things along with it.
That's what Dave does.
Well, but it's all connected, again, when you talked about, the recruitment of a police force that reflects the community, and how to make that happen, that police, that, and then of course, from different folks to say, the person's not a sellout when they're an officer of the law, that's the, sometimes, I think I've shared this with you, Dr. Kimberly, I pray for good bumper stickers, and some people have like good bumper stickers, like no new taxes. And I say that's a good bumper sticker only because people like repeat that. And it's like, I say no wasted taxes because, if it's being spent poorly, we got to stop, Yep. And that's why people think we should just get rid of all taxes because government can't spend things well. And that's just wrong. That being said, I'm going to the defund the police bumper sticker. That's just, I get people's frustrations. We have to reform the police. We have to continue to train the police. We have to demilitarize the police because we've given police, like, again, military grade. What's that?
We have to de-gang them.
Yeah, and it's just to say, how do we make then the police force what they're intended for, in the sense that they are there to protect us, to follow up on crimes and catch bad folks. But then it's that the overabundance of exuberance, and especially if, we are having a conversation, a couple weeks ago at a county commission table, and somebody talked about unconscious bias, and he was kind of doubting it. And I'm like, and it wasn't the time or place to really get into it, but it was to say, one of my new favorite lines, and it's more than a bumper sticker, is an Irish poet. Everybody needs to have a favorite Irish poet, and I have one. And he was saying something about, I was blind to that. And his friend who was blind said, stop using my impairment as a metaphor for your ignorance. Exactly. And so this idea that, that became crippled, or that's lame, or that's crazy. We use all these disability labels to say something doesn't work, or, I'm stupid, I'm blind to that. And so this is our unconscious use of language, that we're diminishing all these folks with disabilities. And then when you see somebody who's blind, you're like, well, they can't do that. And it's like, actually, they're blind baseball announcers. I mean, you pick a field, there's a blind person in it, because you find a way to, you find a way to go forward because your passion is there. Because, a blind person couldn't play the piano or write music.
Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles.
I think he was trying to be funny.
I'm trying to be. I was setting Dr. Kimberly up.
I'm like,
I looked at all the. We're at 4:45. The time just goes by quickly, especially when you have a topic that we all are extremely passionate about. But I look at when you talk about the police department. My father was blind. He had them come and sit on his porch. They had a conversation, and next thing you know, they did do some things to diversify the Grand Rapids Police Department. They did make some changes. We didn't see that. And as they're looking at my dad, who can't see them literally because he is visually, impaired, he's blind. And they're like, well, we never saw it that way, Bishop Durham. He says, but I did see it that way. And they're like, what? And this is how we can do it. And so now, they're not coming down, breaking down people's doors in order to serve them a warrant or because they owe back child support. Um, if you get locked up for child support, all you had to do was make a phone call, drop the bishop's name, and if you had $5 in your pocket, somebody brought you $5, you could get out of jail.
And I think all that type of change comes through relationships. The fact that your father being able to sit down and have a conversation. That's one of the things I like to bring to Kentwood as well, where the police officers, where there's mandatory community conversations, whether it happens monthly or quarterly, where they sit with the community because you need to see me and guess what? I need to see you. We treat people how we want to be treated. It's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. So the cops have an opportunity to express how they feel and what they expect or what they would like to see us do and how we can help as a community, because people love to help, right? But also the community gets to say, hey, you guys are doing a good job, or hey, we need help here, we need help there. There's a conversation going, right? Building relationships. I think when there is not a relationship, there's a disconnect. There's still ways that we have to go, but I think that if we all focus on doing it together, building these relationships, everybody can be better. Everybody can benefit because we're not just thinking about ourselves. Like with Dave talking about the language, just really listening in to the average person. They would never even think about what you said, but now that you've said it and they've heard it, it'll stay on their mind. It'll stay on my mind. Just simple things. I mean, it's just that easy. Treat people how you want to be treated. Get ready to build relationships. I think I can say for me, this new politician coming in, I'm all about relationships. It's important.
I love it. I think that's a good place for us to put a comma and, provide space as time continues on for you to be able to come back and let's see where you are, what's happening. But I think that a couple of weeks, our guest, R.G. Holloman, probably said it best, is that we can't legislate people's hearts. And a lot of things that we're talking about are matters of the heart. And we can't legislate them. And I just thought that was so profound.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of things
true
of the heart.
It's true.
Dave, any final words?
Well, my final words are gratitude, Meoschia, for joining us today and putting up with that chainsaw out there. And I wish you best of luck on November 2.
Thank you.
And no matter which way the votes fall, looking forward to working with you to make our community a better place.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Meoschia?
I just want to say that to anyone watching that the most important thing is to treat people how you would like to be treated. Everybody wants to feel safe and everybody has a right to feel safe, to feel cared for, to feel loved. We know that cities have to run and governments have to run. God put them in place for a reason. Be very careful about who you vote for. But voting is your power and it is your right. And listen, and everybody out there the same way, running is your power and it is your right. But just remember, you're going to be responsible for people's lives and livelihood. So take it very seriously. When you decide to run, it's not about you anymore. It's about the people. So check me out on Meoschia.com.
I think those are some great words to even live by, whether you run for an office or not. But some great words to live by. We want to say thank you to all of our viewers who are tuning in. We are grateful for you. We are in all 50 states, more than 120 cities. We are in 9 countries. And we thank you. We thank you. We thank you for trekking with us and rolling on the road. We have been from the West Coast to the East Coast, from the North down to the South. And last week we had the privilege of having someone converse with us from Kenya. And so we want to say thank you so much over these last 19 months for rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave.
One more thing. Happy anniversary, Dr. Kimberly.
Happy anniversary.
Stanley.
Happy anniversary
Don't make me sing again.
to you.
Yes, so I'm gonna go enjoy my wonderful dinner that my husband prepared. Yes, he is the cook in the house.
We'll see you.
All right, see
Thank
you
you
guys.
both so much. And Dave,
You're so
it's
welcome.
good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Take care.
All right.